Perek Vov, Posuk Tes. Veidabe Moshe Ken al Bnei Yisrael. And Moshe spoke as Hashem had instructed him to the Bnei Yisrael, meaning he had mentioned the 4 levels of Geula, 4 expressions of redemption. V'lo shamu el Moshe. They did not listen to Moshe. I mean, they heard the words, meaning they did not pay attention to what he had said to them. Why? Because they were short-winded and because of the overwhelming level of work. What does that mean? It means, regardless of what he told them, at this moment, what is Paro demanding? Paro is demanding at this moment, that the quota should be met. And if they don't meet the quotas, they're going to be beaten. Therefore, the moment is pressing, and the redemption, whatever it's meant to happen, will happen. As a result of that, at this moment, they didn't have the capacity, the emotional capacity, to internalize what was being said. It did not impact on them because there was a level of distraction. People themselves, you find, are willing to give their lives for causes to the point where they'll be beaten. Why? Because they internalize the cause to such a point that if the cause which they're representing is not addressed, it's not worth living. Or it's worth the pain to bring about the result of the cause. So it's an indication of the degree, the way you value it. And if you don't value it, then the moment, which is pain, has greater value than whatever that cause may be. So that they were not able to internalize and appreciate what Moshe had said at the moment was an indication that the level of belief, their depth and breadth of capacity to appreciate what was being offered wasn't fully appreciated. Because if it would have been fully appreciated, they would have fully paid attention regardless of the consequences. I'll give you an example. Throughout history, if the government issues a decree that you're not permitted to study Torah, a Jew has to give his life, and he studies regardless. And he has to behave defiantly, and if he's caught, he'll be killed. If he's caught, he'll be tortured. But that's the obligation of Kiddush Hashem. That's called Shas Hashmad. If they start issuing decrees which openly will put Judaism in jeopardy, a Jew has to give his life. As they always say, if you read a little bit about the Holocaust, in the Warsaw Ghetto, there were Ger Hasidim who had clandestine minyanim, and even Boti Midrash, they were studying, even though the Nazis, Yamach Shmom, they put up signs that if a Jew's caught even having a beard, he will be killed, he'll be shot. They did not cut their beards. They studied, they had minyanim, at the risk of being caught. They were literally defiant. And they fought like lions against the Nazis. I'm not talking about they were the ones with the Warsaw Uprising. It wasn't that. They were the ones with the weapons. They went clandestinely hidden, and they weren't being concerned. Other people were afraid. They weren't afraid. Because even if they be caught, if they'll be killed, they'll be killed. Doesn't make a difference. Because in terms of the way they internalized the value of their Torah and their mitzvahs and their parents and understanding what the Nazis wanted to accomplish, they were defiant against them. Here, Moshe Rabbeinu, he proved himself. There's not a question, he is the Goel. He is the Redeemer. He will bring about the end result. But at this moment, they're saying, we can't pay attention. This moment is not the moment maybe later. At this moment, we're preoccupied. Our emotion, our minds are preoccupied with the present, and therefore, it literally fell on deaf ears. And they continued. So over here, there's a very interesting Sefarno of this. If you take a look at the Sefarno, Lo shomo el Moshe, Lisbonein b'cholzer. They didn't have the ability to reflect on all that Moshe had said to them. Sheyivtchu b'Yeshua sakel yisborach. If they would have had faith and trust in the salvation of Hashem, vayechshavo letzedakah, that would have been considered righteousness to them. That would have been gone into the meritorious column if they would have. Kinya Avram. Let's stop. As we find Avram had no child. He was promised the world. So Avram says to Hashem, but what's the good of all this? I have no child. I have no heir. The head of my household, he'll be my heir. So Hashem says, no, it's going to be your physical child. And then the Torah says, Vayechshvel lo letzedakah. Even though the Zodiac said, Avram ein lo ben, Avram will not have a son, but Avram yesh lo ben. Avram will have a son. And it says, and he believed, Vayechshvel lo letzedakah. That he believed was considered righteousness. Meaning in the schus of believing, even something which is not so simple to believe, it's full trust. That you trust, although there's a basis not to trust, in that merit, you merit. Because although there's a reason not to, and you do, that brings you merit and allows you to be meritorious, and Hashem should do for you, which he wouldn't do for others. Over here, the Sifon is pointing out something. Because they didn't fully, although we know you proved that you were the Goel, but to experience it as a reality, to internalize it, they did not have the capacity to reflect on it because, it says, because they didn't have the sufficient bitochon. They didn't have sufficient trust in Hashem. If they would have fully trusted Hashem, nothing would have interfered with this. And if they would have, it would have been tzedakah. It would have been a righteousness. But the punchline is this. What happened to this generation? Because of the sin of the Meraglim, what happened? They didn't go into the land. Why? Because 10 of the 12 spies came back with these ominous reports, and they believed the 10 over the 2. So what was lacking? What was lacking was trust. They did not trust Hashem. But Hashem proved himself endless times over. And that's what Hashem says. After I've proven myself so many times to show you that I deliver, how do you not trust? Because this deficiency at this moment displayed itself, that there was a lack of trust where they should have trusted based on what Moshe already had put forth, and they did not, and therefore they were not meritorious. Therefore in the Midbar, it replayed itself, and therefore they did not see the land, but their children saw the land. So this negative characteristic, or this deficiency, at this moment already displayed itself. That's how the Sifon is learning. So the Kotzer Ruach, why is Kotzer Ruach? Why is the short-windedness and everything else a problem? Because it's not a reality. If you initially would have accepted the fact that there'll be a Yeshua, there'll be a Gula, then nothing would interfere with that. Nothing. But because it did not fully, it wasn't internalized because they didn't fully believe, therefore, I'll give you an example. Belief is not intellect, just cerebral. If a person believes in Hashem, what we call emunah, you believe and you have trust. You could say, I understand everything you say, but trust is something you feel. Even though, based on what I tell you, I should trust you, but sometimes you have to have a level of experience and an ongoing relationship to be able to develop the trust. I always give the example. A person graduates a business school. His father takes him into the business, and his father says to his son, "You see this man? I've been doing business with him for 50 years. You could trust him with your life." And he gives him 20 examples how they've been through thick and thin, and this person never failed him. Never failed him. And the son hears it. But factually speaking, because the father's relationship was over 50 years and he actually experienced those various experiences, his reliance on this person is going to be different than the son's. The son hears it. He believes the father. Doesn't even question the father. But since it's not experiential, he didn't experience with that person, therefore it's not the same. He'll question it. He says, well, I have to do my due diligence. But your father succeeded. And he doesn't have to do his due diligence because he takes the man at his face value. It's a different reality. If a person trusts, it's a reality. If it's a reality, there's no such thing as kotzer ruach, avoda kosher. But because they were lacking in trust, not being a reality, therefore this short-windedness and this overwhelming level of work interfered with them to be able to accept what was being said here. That's the understanding.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.